It's the action, point no relaxing. Straight from off the rails with your host, Mr. Patrick. Show we attack, then defend and react. Calculate the damage, then resolve in a snap. Facts with this here and ember blade, leave no witnesses. I just close the combat chain and we winning this. Listen, this a blaze, we ain't going scar for scar. And I'm feeling like a hero, we ain't going card for card. It's the action, point no relaxing.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of the Action Point for 2024. This is officially episode 13. I'm your host, Patrick Shaw, and we're starting the year off with a bang with my guest here today. I'd like to thank everyone for your patience while I took some time off from content for my health. I had a whole bunch of lung issues happening, but we're back. We're back at it. We're back in the saddle and ready to rock and roll. But enough of that. Let's meet the panelists for today's show. We're going to get right to it. Some may know him as a high-level competitive player, while others may know him for his extensive judging. Welcome Oscar Gomez to the program. Oscar, welcome to the Action Point.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Next up, he's risen up all the way from a strong local Armory player to one of the most respected minds in the game. He's Pro Tour semi-finalist, Fab coach, and caster, Shahmir Samee. Welcome to the Action Point.
Thanks for having me, Pat. Good to be here.
Thanks for coming on. Next up, when he's not playing Iris Dromai, casting callings, or making Arsenal Pass's YouTube channel look better, he's one of the TCG industry's most prolific writers. It is Scott Howling Mines.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
I love it.
The signature.
I can die now. There it is. There it is. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. And finally, a man whose takes are so hot already, he got kicked off of his own podcast Twitter handle. Bolton Extraordinaire and one half of the Manor Cast with Michael Hamilton. Roger Bodee, welcome to the Action Point.
Happy to be here. I'll try to dial down to some mild takes, just keep
mild takes on this show.
Get them.
That's not what we signed up for.
No.
I'm here for the sauce.
Starting 5 minutes ago, I only give mild takes. I'm sorry.
Unbelievable.
All right, well, let's see what kind of takes we get. Is everyone ready for question number 1 on today's episode? All right,
go for it. Away.
Heavy Hitters has been out for a few weeks now, and with it a brand new meta that seems to be anyone's game. There are those who are celebrating that their favorite hero finally has a chance, but also those bemoaning a powered-down game reduced to faceless heroes playing number chess. Are we in a flesh and blood utopia or hellscape? We're going to start with Roger.
We're in a utopia because Bolton's S tier, so I can't imagine a better metagame or a calling situation or just anything, really. I think people who are lamenting that Fab is too open in the metagame, I've heard that criticism a lot, and to that point, if you want a hot take, get good. The better player will still win in Flesh and Blood more often than not, and matchups really aren't as polarized as much as people are making them out to be. People are saying things like, well, you just have some auto losses. I don't think, short of a handful of exceptions in the game, there's really any true auto losses. Because if you think about it, even if a matchup's like 70-30, if you're better than your opponent, you're probably getting up to like a 50-50 at that point, which really isn't that bad. And I think that's pretty much most matchups in the game at this point in time. Even matchups like Bolton into Dromai, if you have the right deck configurations and you're better than your opponent, you should still be able to pull out about half of your matchups into Dromai. So I think we're in a utopia, and anybody who's complaining about this metagame just has a very bizarre perspective on TCGs, in my opinion.
All right. Next up, we'll go to Oscar.
In my opinion, we're both in an utopia and a hellscape, although I do agree that skill is still very much relevant in this game. I think that the meta as it stands right now is great for a more casual environment, whereas you can bring any hero and have fun and everything has a shot at being good. When you're trying to perform well, let's say at RTN or the upcoming Pro Quests, making your deck viable and good into a field that is too wide and represents too many heroes, sometimes you just gotta pray the gem gods and hope that you get your good pairings, because otherwise, even if you do find those hard pairings at a harder event with more practiced players, it's going to be really hard to get the edge that you hope to find, even with reps or practice or whatever. So it's both a hellscape and a utopia, in my opinion.
A nice purgatory. Excellent. Moving on to Scott. What do you got?
I think we're in a temporary utopia. I think anyone who thinks the game is still powering down is probably a bit of a spoon. It's pretty evident that that the most recent set has done a lot to bring to the forefront brand new decks that have a appropriate power level. But I don't think we're going to stay this way forever. I think we finally have a set that has influenced Classic Constructed for the first time on a substantial scale in quite a while. And we're heading into a Pro Tour. So people that are really putting the work in to figure out what things are supposed to look like have rationale for keeping those things quiet. I think for now, we're definitely in a situation where you can pick up and play whatever you want. You can 9-0 with Olympia, you can smash skulls with KO, you can register Kano by accident on Gem. But that likely won't remain the case after LA comes to light and people start refining based on a true premiere event. So Utopia for now, soon to be Hellscape.
Excellent. Shahmir.
Yeah, I'll go with it's a utopia given the youth of the game. There's as you know, a lot of us have pointed out at this point, like it feels like a very open meta game where you could take almost any reasonable choice and have a pretty good shot if you're the best person in the room on that deck, which is ultimately what Fab has kind of boiled down to for competitive play for a long time. Player skill is like the number one expressive factor in the outcome of a game. I can say that kind of with confidence throughout the history of the game. So it's really nice that we have that still. When I mean, like, given the youth of game, it's like, yeah, there are some polarized matchups in there. And that's kind of down to how the card pool for each of our different classes is developing. And given this kind of horizontal style development of the game where all the cards like roughly around the same level in pure numbers, but it's kind of, you can imagine them as kind of being side grades towards each other where one really trumps other at a given moment or in a given matchup. Given how kind of young the game is, it's going to be a while until we see like highly varied strategies within each class that maybe gives you a strong game into a certain other class that right now has an unfavored matchup. Maybe there'll never be a favorable matchup between like Assassin and Illusionist, or Guardian and Illusionist, or Wizard and Illusionist. Seeing a trend here. In any case, I think there's a lot of wonderful stuff about this metagame right now. It's a great time to just be learning new skills about the game, learning heroes that are kind of new and fun and interesting. And I fully agree with Scott. Depowering is over. Like, Heavy Hitters has been a fantastic set to get back into high power level Fab. And it's really ignited my love for a couple of classes that I thought I'd never enjoy.
You know, Shahmir, you hit on a point that is embedded deep in me, and it's my hatred for illusionists. And I'm gonna give you the point. Does anyone have any counterpoints that they want to rebut at all before we move on to the next one?
No illusionist enjoys here. No apologists.
I mean,
enjoyer, but not apologist. You know what you did.
Enjoyer, not apologist is fine.
You know what you did.
No, I mean, no so much query, but like more just back. I agree. I mean, you have to get lucky to win a tournament anyway. How is playing the Gem Lottery any different?
That's card games, you know. Like, just accept it. It's not bad.
By the Pro Tour, I expect we'll have the nice triangle meta that everybody wants. And
I think we might.
I think the triangle meta is just going to be KO, decks that beat KO, and then Dromai. And basically, Dromai will lose to KO. Dromai will beat all the decks that beat KO, and then all the decks that beat KO will beat KO. And that's probably the triangle I'm expecting for Pro Tour. So if people wanted a more consolidated metagame, I think that's pretty much where we're at.
I think it's on the horizon. Really do.
Yeah, I saw it for like the first like 2 weeks of Heavy Hitters. I saw like everyone's frolicking in meadows and loving everything, and then someone won. Rob Catton wins with Prism. You could just see everyone just kind of put their hats down. We're like, oh, okay, we're back to business as usual. Speaking of that, there has been A lot of discourse surrounding two heroes in particular lately. Kano's recent runs of RTNs and Prism's resurgence with new tech have made these polarizing figures the subject of many arguments. Wildfires and lockdown combos abound. Both heroes appear to play so much differently than the vast majority of the other heroes in Flesh and Blood. How important is it that these heroes like this exist in this particular game? We'll start with Oscar.
So I think it's important to have these kinds of niche heroes that do their own thing. Not it like I don't think they should be the most represented heroes, but it's fine to have the represented so that um, players that play those heroes learn different ways to play the game. They attack the other heroes on completely different angle, but they're also vulnerable to different kinds of attacks themselves. For example, Kano starts with 30 life. If you beat them down real fast, he has to find their combo right away. Prism is vulnerable to unpreventable damage. Like they build a board, and Vincent says, for example, "Nope, let's just clear everything." So although they do play the game their own way, they have their weaknesses, and I think like the game is fine having a handful of heroes that can do their own thing, and also it makes for more variety. People that like prefer illusionists or wizards, like I have a lot of friends that are looking forward to the next wizard to try and play that class. Icelander was an example of a very fun wizard to play, and I kind of can't wait to see what LSS brings to the table next.
Fun and wizard, both subjective terms. We're going to move on to Scott.
You got far too many wizards in this call for that.
True.
To answer the question, incredibly, if I wanted every game I played to be math the game, I would just play poker. I'd make more money doing it. I want to be able to do different things in my card game. People enjoy different aspects of card games. If I want to play on my opponent's turn, if I want to do something novel, cool, unique, I should have a corner case deck I can pick up to do so, to make my opponent read my cards and go, what? And that's a magical part of card games. One of my favorite experiences in card games. And no, should Kano be the best deck in the room? Absolutely not. That would be miserable. Let's make sure that doesn't happen. We can balance accordingly and make sure that's the case. But these decks need to exist to attract different types of players. Otherwise, our game is all the same type of person, and it's all just a myriad of math. And that sounds miserable, quite frankly.
Very good. Shahmir.
Yeah, I agree that this concept of like finding and creating your identity and play style for a card game, that's my favorite reason for playing TCGs, besides just like the social aspects. I love figuring out, what is a strategy that I enjoy playing? What's a hero that I really identify with, in Fab's case? And that's been the case across other games as well. So it's really important that Fab allows itself a chance to have players express themselves as like, do you enjoy playing on opponent's turns? Hello, wizard and illusionists. Look at them. They are so shiny and fun. The tough part is like, they are very different to like a typical game of Fab. They kind of have, at least 30 to 40% of their game plan sits on this axis that's like on its island away from all the other classes. And part of what you learn as a player playing against these heroes is like, how do I beat that? How do I even plan to beat that, let alone actually execute it? I think what's tough from LSS's side, finding a way to kind of thread the needle between making these classes, unique and interesting to play so that players can express themselves and find that play style if they want it, but still make it engaging when you're sitting opposite it. And that's really tough to do. I think they've done a fantastic job in places. New Prism's design is way closer to that than what classic Prism and Luminaris was, which is huge. But there's always going to be a little bit of a struggle on that, and it's part of the development process for the game. So they absolutely should be there. It's going to take some time for them to really find their niche and for people to be happy with where they are, but they deserve their place, and they're getting closer and closer to where I think they should be.
All right. Roger.
I really don't have that much to say about Prism. I think C tier is about right for that deck still. I think there are times where it looks like an S tier deck, and I think there are times where it looks like the worst deck that's ever been created in Flesh and Blood, with a hand that doesn't attack and doesn't block. And it's like, okay, what am I even doing here in this game? Oh wow, 4 cards do no game actions available to me. Awesome, or go. So Prism's, I think, in a very healthy spot. I don't think that's really a problematic deck. And I could even argue that I don't think Kano's really all that problematic. My hot take on this is going to be the real issue with Kano is time. And I think, especially in higher level events, players need to be more engaged with actually calling a clock or asking a judge and looking out for slow play. Because I think one of the unhealthiest aspects of Kano is when somebody's like, okay, hold on, I have to do 10 minutes of math for my one game action. And I don't think we should allow game states like that where you have to be able to be comfortable enough with your deck and know it in order to play it at a reasonable pace. And that's my biggest issue with Kano overall. It's not about like power level or strength or anything like that. It's just like from a gameplay experience, it's miserable on my side of the table when my opponent's like, hold on, I'm resolving my Kano activation. Let me figure out calculus and what's the circumference of the moon. And if you have 16 resources in your hand and 12 floating, how many damages am I doing with my triple wildfire comp? Like, just, I'm clock, like, make a game action, please. And I think as long as Kano players are able to efficiently and effectively play the game, actually, it's a fine deck. But when they're sitting there and tanking for 20 minutes, then it is a very toxic deck.
That it is. I long for the day that I run into the Prism that draws a dead hand against me. We have these, these heroes out, and this is just an add-on. They're like, what is? My problem with it is that it does seem like there are many heroes that are built to be not equipped for these, to face these. Like you have these two different heroes, but then it's not just like a matchup thing. It's like you're not supposed to be able to beat these. I just want to swing my sabers, for 7 each turn, and they've set me up to make my whole deck into this one linear strategy, and then here's another avenue that says fuck that, you're gonna die.
Wasn't that just all TCG strategies all the time? It's like the classic combo, mid-range, and aggro strategies.
You gotta lose to somebody.
Yeah,
like, you gotta lose to someone.
Yeah.
And I think I was going to say as well, in terms of the discussion with Kano players taking too long, for what it's worth, I agree. But I think that's more of a tournament etiquette issue than it is a Kano issue per se. Like it's clear the deck can be fine. There are clearly people that can play Kano at a speed that is appropriate and creates an enjoyable experience. And I think we as players do need to be better at calling a judge or asking for a clock if someone really is making the experience unpleasant. I think that's more their fault than it is Kano's fault.
That's fair. It's just the time for that goes up with the complexity of a deck, and I think Kano's a very complex deck.
I think that's also fair.
Yeah.
It takes a long time to see 30 cards in a turn and figure out in which order you're going to stack them.
When you're playing Bolton, it's very simple. Your hand is just all 0 for 3s, and you just 2-card 3 really efficiently. No math.
Love it. I'm hand vomiting. This is the way I want to live my life. All right, moving on to question number 3. Part the Mist Veil was recently announced, and speculation is all over the place, wondering what kind of heroes and abilities will be announced in the set. We haven't seen new talents since Uprising, with Dusk Till Dawn showcasing existing ones, but there's a chance at least one talent will make an appearance in this latest set. I see people talking about Spectral or some kind of mist variant possibly happening there. Do you want to see talents return to Flesh and Blood? We're going to start this with Scott.
Yes. We were talking earlier on about how it's important to diversify what you can do in a game and create different narrow experiences inside the same class. Well, Dromai isn't Prism, Fi isn't Katsu, Iyslander wasn't Kano. That's how you do that. You do that with those talents. The issues we've had and the issue that people maybe don't want to return to talents in the past was more an indication of design mistakes or design change of philosophy, perhaps, more than talents actually being a problem. Tales of Aria was self-admittedly undertested. We were in the middle of COVID. Stuff got in the way. The set didn't get the treatment it was expected to get. Starvo happened, which is fine. And we pushed the limits of what we were allowed to do. But talents are okay as long as we're designing in a space that wants those talented heroes to use a different card pool. Dromai isn't using the same cards as Katsu. Iyslander wasn't interested in the same cards as Kano. The issue is when we start designing in the space like Starvo, where it's, well, we've got all these extra tools and this extra chunk of card pool alongside all the things I already kind of wanted to play that made for a good hero in the class anyway. And I think as long as we're designing in those spaces to create different experiences inside the same class, talents are a massive gain to the game overall.
Awesome. Excellent. Shahmir?
Yeah, I think the number one thing that makes, I'll start with, yes, talents are fantastic to return to the game. When they've gone wrong, it's been primarily because the card pool for a talent hero gets so big that it's just impossible to really manage like all of it at once. There's too many redundant pieces that interact too favorably with kind of what their core game plan is. And you have to take something very critical to that hero's game plan, like Starbo's hero power or Voltaire for Lexi, if you want to just like completely change its strategy, or you have to try and clip at the edges. And then we sometimes feel like, oh, that wasn't really enough, or, oh, like the strategy's still there. Like, did this ban actually do anything? However, I am super excited for talents to return. I'm excited to see new talents. What I'm actually most excited for, and I don't know if this will happen this year, something that I would anticipate happening like next year, maybe even year after, is once we see talents return in new contexts. So like we can get lightning and elemental back into the game, but with a new set of classes that have never had access to that before. Because the real strength of talents, in my opinion, is that they can have this kind of this identity of their own that might have that might appear in multiple other classes in the same way that we saw like lightning appear across both Runeblade and Ranger. I'd really look forward to like, well, can we find ways in which lightning starts to appear in other classes? Well, it obviously really appears in stuff like Ninja, so maybe that's a bit a bit trite. Once upon a time, I'd have said like Lightning Brute, no way they can do that, but we have KO now. Like I actually
That's
think we could do Lightning Brute someday. Yeah, that's exactly right. It's like we could do Lightning Brute now. So that would be really cool. It's like, let's see what happens when we do some of that. Let's see what happens when we put ice onto another, like, I don't know, Ice Assassin, because they already care on it and stuff. So I really look forward to that point whenever it happens.
I do long for my Lightning Ninja one day. Roger?
Specific, I think James White said in one tweet, there's going to be an Ice Ninja Sub-Zero at some point in time, so that'd be pretty interesting. Personally, I'd love to see the Abominable Snowman Ice Brute. I think that'd be a really cool class combination. But I don't think there's a single player that I've ever talked to in all my time of Flesh and Blood that didn't say, I love talents. I've never met a person be like, oh, talents, gross. I hate cool, flavorful designs that are really interesting and engaging to play with. Why would I ever want that? Please just give me this vanilla basic stuff over here. Vanilla is my favorite color. Missionary is my favorite position. And I just love nothing exciting or special in my life ever. And so, of course, everybody's excited for talents to come back. And I think there's a huge community demand for them. I think one of the biggest things that I lament frequently about kind of the past 2 years of design was the lack of talents in the classes. Sure, we got it in Dusk Till Dawn, if you consider that set exists. I'm on the fence whether or not it does. Who knows? So as far as new talents and new class combinations go, I'm super excited for it. I really think the stratification that it offers the game is important from a balancing perspective, because if you make a Starvo level mistake in Elemental, it's only it's contained to that class. Like it's only an Elemental. You don't have to worry about that mistake, filtering onto the rest of the guarding classes, for instance. And if we look at something like Bright Lights, I think Brian Gottlieb said recently on interviews that they really pulled a lot of punches with Bright Lights because, if you push one mechanologist card too far in that set, well then, it's not just Dash that's broken, it's Dio, Max, and Teclovestin that are all broken. If you throw in a talent, well, boom, you just solve that problem. Then you don't have to worry about pushing the class too far. You now have it stratified behind this additional gatekeeping of the talent. And I really think that offers a lot of really powerful interactions for the game and possibilities.
I can already tell you get the point for this question for the sex joke. Oscar?
I can't really top that. But I'm gonna echo everyone's sentiment here. Basically, I miss talents. I'm really looking forward to what's next. And I'm pretty sure LSS have learned, it's been said already, but like Starvo happened. All of Area has become legends. So there was a small thing in each of those heroes that made them broken. You could argue Crown of Seeds was doing crazy things. Lexi had Voltaire. Briar had, well, they started with Cheerios and it was just nuts. And then the Channel Mount Heroic, like it was a combination of things. So I'm pretty sure LSS is gonna doze what they're gonna do next with the new talent. And I don't think heroes are gonna go that as fast as the area heroes did. As for part of Misville, if I had to guess, well, there's a hint in the name. Maybe we're gonna get something with mist, some sort of like absorption power. Maybe like absorb cards, absorb resources, or I don't know. It's gonna be interesting, and I can't wait to see what we get in May.
Me too. I think we're getting a 4 hero set. That's my. I think it's
I
going to
agree.
be
Yeah, that's
Wizard,
the vibe right
Illusionist,
now.
Yeah.
Assassin, and Ninja.
You're getting adult Ira. You heard it here first.
Oh, someone had to say it.
But like, is it going to be like Shadow Zombie Ninja, or how does the dead thing work?
I hope so, Roger.
Ooh,
I want Runeblades
Necromancer.
back.
Necromancer
Runeblades back
makes
so
a lot of
bad.
sense.
I'm waiting for. I don't know how they'll pull it off, but the return of Minerva will be a big moment in Flesh and Blood for me.
Yes.
Because she has been taken away when she comes back.
Yes, the old TV drama trope of we saw her die, but we didn't see her die.
Yeah, that's right. We didn't see the
Very,
body.
Very, very
Did
much.
not see the body. Yeah, I can, that's the one I can't wait for.
That's happening in War of the Monarch Part 3.
You're right. That's now I gotta wait till that gets announced.
Having dinner with Shane at the minute.
All right. The next question is the community-driven question of the day. It's where a bunch of people ask the same thing, and I try to put it together into a cohesive thought. So thank you, everyone, for submitting your questions for the action point. Do keep them coming. You just might see yours be asked in a future episode. All right. All of you are familiar with the grind to prepare for a big tournament in some capacity. You can spend hundreds of hours testing and gathering statistics just before the big event. You know exactly what the best hero you should be playing is. How far off of the S tier heroes from the ones that have a special place in your heart? I think I said that right. Let's see. How far off are the S tier heroes from the ones that have a special place in your heart? And how hard is it, if at all, to decide between your personal best deck in format and Bay? We're going to start with Shahmir.
Yeah, it's a good question. I actually find that it's not very difficult to make that decision because there's, and I'll say something maybe a little controversial here, like it's very rare that everyone should be playing the best deck in the format. The reason for that is that, like, as players, we all have a playstyle that we gravitate towards. We find we play most naturally and that we play best. And the thing that's going to get you the best results is if you are playing the best that you can on the best deck that you know how to pilot best. Like, that's all three things have to kind of come together with a little bit of luck in there, as we've established. And because of that, it's like, I think about some of the metas that I've prepared for in the past, and it's like, I walk in thinking, I don't know if I'm taking the best pick this tournament. Like, I think back to Baltimore, especially when Oldhim was actually really big on our radar, and I was piloting Lexi at the time, ironically, not realizing that was probably the best deck of that meta. But I was like, man, Oldhim feels like it's whooping me. I feel like I should really be playing Oldhim. But I hate Guardian. I'm not doing that. So I'm just going to take the deck that I pilot better, which admittedly happened to line up with being a very powerful set of cards at the time. The point is that I think you should take what comes to you naturally, what you feel that you pilot best, what you're going to have the best results on and the most fun with on the day, because we're playing a card game. We're meant to have fun with it. It is kind of tough to do all the maths to figure that out. That's the scariest part of pairing. But it's also kind of the most fun part, and why this open meta is so interesting to dive into right now and figure out where do I fit in this wide open field.
Yep, very good points there. Roger.
I'm in the fortunate position where best deck in format is Bay for me at this point in time, but this is the first time in my life where it's just so happened to be that case. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's a game. If you're not having fun, I don't think there's any merit in torturing yourself and playing a deck you hate. That's why, objectively, I think Lexi was the best deck for forever. It felt like probably 6 or 7 years, I think. But I never played Lexi. I hated that deck. I hated playing against that deck. I hated the thought of picking up and playing like 3 of a kind. Just felt me with a sense of anxiety and hatred and disgust for myself that I couldn't let myself do it. But like, if you had a great time casting those cards during that time period, more power to you. I'm sure you won a lot more games than I did in that time period. But at the end of the day, when even on the Wolfpack, like everybody basically just silos off, not based on like metagame, like format breaking. Usually, it's usually like, well, you know that me and a couple of other guys are going to really focus on Warrior, and then like Zach and a couple of other guys are really going to focus on Rune Blades, and and Brody and Fong are all going to focus on best deck in formats, and they'll play kind of, but ultimately they still have to enjoy the deck that they're playing. So I think, to Shahmir's point, where if you have that 3-point combination where you know your deck really well, it's really well positioned, and you know exactly like what you're supposed to be doing with it, I think that's really the best place to be in life.
It is nice when you have a staff of 50 to be able to break off into different character departments like that and really.
I think the Runaways is bigger than us now. I'm getting tired of this joke. I'm pretty sure the Runaways is actively recruiting like children at this point. Like
I saw Runaways with a couple members pop up in New Japan. It's everywhere. All right, Oscar.
So the three keys have been said already. Love your deck, know it from top to bottom, and maybe it'll do well. I wish Viserai was good enough to in the meta right now, because that's my like true love. But unfortunately, it's a deck that I've had to put aside for quite some time now. But for me personally, this hits home because I currently feel lost in the meta. Every deck is viable. Every deck is probably close to S tier if you get enough reps with it, because there doesn't feel like there's a definite clear winner. Like even the top decks right now are targetable, and you can even show up to some events with your pet deck, and let's say you love to play Arachne and nobody has tested against it, so you show up and just clean up house with the deck because you come out of nowhere and you throw a curveball at everyone. So as long as you have fun at the end of the day, I think it's the most important part. And that's why we play the game. And yeah, I've been slinging arrows, trying to tune my deck as well as I can for the meta that I'm targeting. And I think any specialist can rack up some percentage points by adjusting their lists and their playstyle to.
I will say, Roger, to your point, there's only been 2 times I've ever felt like bad about playing Flesh and Blood, and one of them was when I picked up Starvo for the first time, and the other is when I picked up Lexi for the first time. Those 2 is just like, this isn't even fun for me. Like it's 30-0. I can't ever do this again to myself or anybody else. Scott, why don't you wrap us up here with the question?
And it's important to note this opinion's coming from maybe the only person to ever register Irish Dromai in a competitive event ever at any point. The gap between the best deck in format and your pet deck, the one that you are a specialist on, is not as big as the gap as playing your specialist deck well versus playing a deck you hate badly. That gap is a whole lot bigger, and you are much better off having a good time and getting in the reps on something that you enjoy playing. You're going to play it better. It's going to go better for you.
Look, efficiency at its finest. Love to see it.
They don't pay me per word.
Yeah.
If I may also,
right.
to your point on feeling lost, like I think, and a lot of people feel this at different metagames. I felt this towards the beginning of this one. I think the key to kind of finding what it is that you love in a metagame, if it's like, you know what, my pet deck is not getting it right now, try and find something, like find a feature, like a play style, an idea about that deck that you love, and find where you think it might succeed in the metagame. Like me, it's like, I don't know, I loved end games and setting up really long game plans where I had to think about resource management. That's one of the things I loved about Icelander. And it felt like there wasn't tons of that in this meta. And then I started playing Kasai. I was like, wait, that's all Kasai. I thought I'd hate Warrior, but
Yeah.
Kasai is all about building endgames, and that's so fun for me now. So yeah, just find something that you love that is succeeding in the metagame, because chances are you can. Give it a go.
Yeah, we'll do. Thank you.
Oscar, do you know any like really good KO players?
Locally, no.
I think that's also why you might feel like the format's open, because I think a really good KO deck
True.
should pretty quickly narrow down.
Yeah. There's a handful of KOs that are like trying to follow in Yuki's footsteps, but they're not like rolling scabs way too often and like not finding the optimal lines all the time. So yeah, like personally, like the locals right now, we've had RTNs with 50 plus people, and that's part of the why I've been talking about gem roulette a bit, because I try to adjust to what I'm gonna see throughout the day, and I do well, but then I hit this one, like, let's say super fatigue dash, and I'm like, okay, well, my arrows are not getting through. I can send 15 dominate and they're gonna block it all. And yeah, I mean, sometimes it is what it is.
Yeah, for sure.
I had Shahmir. I think I need to maybe follow up with you, because I suck at Kasai, and I really looked forward to having her.
Hit me
in my
up,
life.
bro. I can't
man.
believe how much I'm enjoying that deck right now. Like, I
Oh,
thought
I'm
wish I
genuinely
could.
so happy for you. I'm over here being one of the bad KOs. Like you sound like you're having a great time. I'm figuring out how agile windup works.
Do we still have time for I think one more question here? All right, this is the real hard hitting stuff here. All right, LSS didn't give us a lot to go off of about the story behind heavy hitters. What we do know is that all these heroes have plopped into the deathmatch arena. What? Why are they here? Roger, tell us why these guys have shown up in the deathmatch arena.
I would say KO and Reinar took a wrong turn at Albuquerque and wound up here. Victor had his chauffeur drive him to the most fanciest place he could. And then after he got sick of that place, he's like, I'm ready to battle. There he is. Olympia just was born and raised there because that's just what he does. Kasai, I don't even know why she would ever be there, but she's there. And then Betsy, I don't know, man. It's just a cluster. The sense it makes no sense.
It is
I
a
don't
big
know.
cluster.
It's just there. They're just fighting and having a grand old time. And you know what? That's enough sometimes.
I wholeheartedly agree. Oscar, why are they there?
So Betsy was just had too many drinks, wagering left and right. And then she just took a wrong turn. Instead of going to the bar, she ended up in the arena, had to fight for her life, so she could go back to her drinking. Victor, probably his dad owned the arena or something, and he was pawned off to fight. And maybe his dad was making so much money, like paying off his opponents or something along those lines. KO probably got abducted somewhere. Some shady things happened. He got experimented on, lost his limb. Who knows? Reinar, I think the Savage Lands and Volcor are not too far. So I'm gonna say that Reinar and Kasai probably ended up in the arena trying to find other fighters for her army, and Reinar, I don't know, just escaped from the Savage Lands and ended up in the arena. What am I missing? Olympia, like I can agree, he was just born and raised fighting.
This is how much of a dork I am. I think I have the map of Wraith memorized, and I think Volcor and the Savage Lands are actually on almost opposite sides. Because up here is
they're way off.
Aria, and then I think it goes Volcor into the Monarchs. No, the Monarch City is right in the middle.
Yes.
And then down in the bottom right is Mysteria. Then we're at the bottom in the Deathmatch land, and then right next, like upper to the left of that, is the Savage Lands. The monasteries in some kind of toxic jungle down there. Metrics at the top center.
Yeah, Metrics in our top left. I have like
Nerd.
It's full of glare, but like this is the map. It's a playmat of the map, and I have one playmat for each region around it. So
that's so
Very
cool.
Yeah.
Very good, very good. Scott, make some lore. happen?
Sure.
Here?
KO is the kind of guy who got into a fight at 2 a.m. and in and out with a guy that was bigger than him and got arrested for the scrap, lost his arm in the process, ended up going to deathmatch jail. Kasai is looking for the cheapest possible way to get revenge. She's really money savvy, and the arena's full of people who are desperate for a little bit of gold. Victor's trying to get rid of his 5'2" energy. He's desperate for somewhere he can spend money to make people throw fights to make him feel better about the fact he is small. Reinar has been walking in a straight line for about 5 sets and
Yep.
just walked there. This is just the part he's ended up in so far. Betsy was told someone who was in the middle of the fight drank the drink she put in the fridge with her name on it. And Olympia is trying desperately to find out where all these people came from.
Yeah, what are you doing here? All right, Shahmir, wrap us up. Drop some lore.
Sparklet's version. Okay. KO picked a fight with a cop, like, way too late, like, completely outgunned, got lost an arm, got packed up, sent off to the arena. Boom. Reinar is just like, it's the finally a worthy opponent meme. He's just like looking for the guy who like might actually kill him, but no one will. So there's that. Betsy's a certified gambling addict, so she kind of like has to keep going. She can't stop, and she will die in the process. Olympia was born and raised for this. He's trying his best. He's doing all right. He's doing a good job in there. Kasai, very angry, wants to avenge the death of her clan out in the Volcor wastes, and is trying to raise money for warmongering, like in the very literal sense, raising an army. And Victor wasn't really vibing with the Solanian horse community, so he like was looking for a new place to go. So he wandered over here, brought his rich human rider with him, and it's like, you know what, you do what you like, dude. I like to find my people here. You go off, and this guy's like fighting in the arena.
You beat me to it. I was going to say I want an addendum to my story. As Victor was really hoping to win carries in the deathmatch arena.
Yeah, totally fair.
It is so it's ripe for some storytelling. I hope they drop some more soon. They had, KO was getting the full Simba treatment. Like he's just like, he was young and now he's old and now he's got his arm going. There's a whole like slave thing with Kasai, and Olympia is like the perfect like avatar for what she's doing. And there's this, just tell us what that is. Just tell us before my brain explodes. All right. We have a winner of this episode, and by the tightest of margins, it is not Shahmir. I'm sorry, it is Roger Bodee. You have won this episode. Congratulations!
Slain by the hottest take.
And the winner, it really was.
That my mild takes were able to prevail in the end.
It was one sex joke that really prevailed. Here, Roger,
Damn.
you have 2 minutes to say whatever you want.
Whatever I want. That's a dangerous thing to give me.
Unlimited power.
I'm getting Twitter up right now. I'm taking notes.
Okay. Overall, I think I just want to say, as much as I love giving hot takes and stuff like that, I'm going to give this actually as a little platform to de-escalate things for once and just say, I'm an entertainer a lot on podcasts and on Twitter and things like that. And I really hope that at the end of the day, people don't take everything I say super seriously and can see that it's mostly a bit, that I'm a real person at the end of the day. I'm a father and husband. I'm in law school. Like, there's a whole side of me that never comes on camera. And I think that's everybody. And it's really challenging, I think, balancing the hot takes in a way that's still respectful. And I'm really sorry to anybody if I've ever like genuinely offended you or said something that crossed a line. That's never my intention whenever I do something. And I think one of the reasons why Michael Hamilton and I are able to be such good friends, despite him being the purest good boy that's ever been good, is that when I do cross that line with him, and when he and I have had genuine like conflicts and things like that with my trolling nature, I never cross that line again. If he says, Roger, you did something that bothered me, never again will I ever make that joke, do that thing that bothers him. And I'm like that with anybody. So at the end of the day, I like to think that my trolling nature is like lighthearted and fun and good natured in its like spirit. And I'm sorry if that never really comes across in a way that I didn't intend it to.
You are the goodest of boys. Roger. That is
Roger
for sure.
Redemption
Thank you
arc.
very much.
That was precious. Oh my gosh.
That is. What I really got, I try to get some dicks just on the show to really kind of spice things up, but they don't answer me. So it's always just wonderful, nice people. So
My grinder next time.
yeah.
Yeah, so the real geez, wow.
Yeah, I am.
Wow.
I did. It's my.
I was going to
fault.
say the real selling point is that was the bit.
Yeah.
But
I'm gonna get off this podcast and just go back to kicking puppies nonstop. That's my favorite thing to do.
Oh my
A
god.
whole pile of them
All
in the
right,
corner.
Roger, why don't you start the plugs? What do you got going on? Where can we find you in the world here?
Soon in the world, I will be in LA for the Pro Tour, so be sure to say hi on a weekly basis. Michael and I started making the podcast again on the M&R Cast or Manor Cast, depending on how you want to say it. And then shortly after that, in May, I will be at the world premiere in Japan. So I've been trying to learn some Japanese. So good luck to me there. And yeah, that's pretty much all I got going on in a nutshell.
Excellent. Oscar, where can we find you?
So I'm DJ Golden Gomez on Twitter. I'm mostly lurk there. You don't see me post much, but I'll read you if you add me. I will be at Los Angeles judging the Saturday and Sunday, so you can catch me in a yellow shirt. Come and say hi. Other than that, I will probably be at Minneapolis after that for the calling in the US and Canadian Nationals after that.
Sounds good. Mr. Mines, where can we find you?
Yeah, if you're looking to find me in person, I will be at the Calling in Warsaw and Pro Tour Amsterdam. Sadly, I will not be in LA, so I will have to miss you if you're there. And of course, UK Nationals. If you're looking for me on the internet, you'll find me on TCGPlayer Infinite for most things Flesh and Blood and Lorcana. You'll find me on Channel Fireball for Flesh and Blood. And you'll find me on Twitter at Howling Mines, and you might find me writing the lore for the Deathmatch Arena if LSS don't hurry up, because someone's got to do it, and I will make it about the horse.
Yeah.
It's canon.
Thank you.
It has to now.
Shahmir, what do you got going on? Where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter. We're not calling it X. It's not called that. We're calling it Twitter still.
Yeah, I refuse to.
Good. Thank Lord. So you can find me on Twitter at Shahmir Samee. I offer fab coaching and have done for a while, relatively successfully, I dare say. Got a lot of satisfied clients. Please do reach out if you're interested in upping your game this season in preparation for RTN's ProQuests or PTLA. I sadly will not be at LA myself, but you will be seeing me at UK Nationals in June and in Amsterdam in July, which I'm really looking forward to. I also do some co-casting alongside Scott, so if you're interested in having some of your games cast, please reach out to us. We love doing it, and we're pretty good at it. So yeah, come find us.
We're like all right, at least. He's good. I can just
No, he's
You guys are very good. Very, very, very good. You are watching / listening to the Action Point podcast. The Action Point theme was written, produced, and performed by Griff. The podcast audio stream is available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more streaming platforms. Head over to X, formerly Twitter, and follow us at Off the Rails TCG. Then head over to YouTube, subscribe to us there, and don't forget to like, comment, and click the bell notification for the latest in OTR content coming out all the time. I promise, in 2024, this statement will be true. OTR has a free-to-join Discord. Click the link to join in and be the first to see new content, as well as have a hand on how the show is made. I ask the questions in there, and the shows are shaped by what, I have like 24 people in the Discord, and they're basically my producers at this point. So come on in and have some sway into what happens around here. Shout out as well to my team, the Tavern Brawlers. Head over to the Brawlers Discord, where you can sign up for all sorts of weekly and monthly events for some of your favorite TCGs, including Flesh and Blood and Alpha Clash. That's going to do it for us tonight. Thank you, everyone, once again for joining me. And remember, kids, it's more fun when it's off the rails.
Point, no relaxing. Straight from off the rails with your host, Mr. Patrick. Show we attack, then defend and react. Calculate the damage, then resolve in a snap. Facts with this here and Ember Blade, leave no witnesses. I just close the combat chain and we winning this. Listen, this a blaze, we ain't going scar for scar. And I'm feeling like a hero, we ain't going card for card. It's the action point, no